What is going on? Welcome back to Jiu Jitsu Outlet. I am here with the Judo maniac, Austin Cook. We talked briefly about this before. You said that you are a Ronin belt in Jiu Jitsu, which in my opinion is the toughest belt. In other words, you are a guy who is not necessarily ranked in Jiu Jitsu, but you've been grappling your whole life. So you are a quote unquote white belt. So can you tell us
Well,
a little bit about that, man?
actually,
Like
like, I gotta
background.
pause you there. A lot's
Yeah.
happened in the last week. I'm now
Oh, dude.
officially a blue belt,
Dude,
so watch
congrats.
out.
Dude,
Yeah,
congrats. So you're a
you know,
blue belt, judo black belt, and a blue belt that you don't want to mess with. Not your average blue belt.
I'm
But
I'm
dude,
not crazy about it though. In judo, the blue and purple, that's for kids, man. So I don't know how I feel about it, but what are you gonna do?
it's true, man. That's true. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I appreciate you. We actually recorded a whole episode, but had some technical issues and weren't able to save it. So that's okay. That was just a warm up. This is the real deal. But bro, thanks for coming on the show and just being
Thank you so
patient.
much for having me, man.
But dude, I want to jump right into it and just pick up where we left off last week with the conversation that didn't save, unfortunately, due to technical errors on my part and the part of the internet. I'm just gonna blame the internet for that. Like it
It's the
was neither
internet,
of our
man. It's,
faults.
it's
Freaking internet, bro.
exactly.
But dude, let's get into it. So I want to hear about your judo journey specifically. Like, what did judo training do for you and your mental health and just your life as you were growing up?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think so much. Like a lot of, I started judo on my 15th birthday, which is a scary time. As you know, as you grow up, you're kind of gaining independence. You have for up until this point, you've had kind of your parents or whoever that you kind of trust giving you the agenda, telling you what to do. And then when you're kind of becoming a man, that sort of begins to dissipate, and it can be nice as far as, like independence. There are definitely some pros to that, but also scary because it's a big bad world out there, and you're gonna have some problems thrown your way that you're gonna have to figure out. And I think uh, judo gave me, you always hear in martial arts like, oh, that gave me confidence, and yeah, I guess a little bit as far as, like, feeling like you can handle yourself. But for me, it really kind of gave me the confidence that I could solve problems, without somebody kind of telling me how to solve them, right? Because you're going to hear all sorts of various lines of advice from people, right? Like, you should do this, you should do that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, right, it's up to you. You got to know yourself, and which is can be a little scary, right? Like, and for me, it was all about randori, which is like sparring in judo. And if you want to get better, and I wanted to, you have to know your weaknesses, your strengths, analyze, is this actually a strength, or maybe I'm not as savvy as I thought I was in this particular situation. And it can kind of be hard because, but it's the real litmus test, right? Like, you're going to go out there and fight somebody, and that's every day you're getting as real feedback as you can. Like, is what I'm doing working? Is my plan working? I need to reassess. And um, I think I'm fortunate that I got to learn and got to be involved in judo, because from like 15 to 18, I did it like seriously. And then I took a year off after high school. I went to the Olympic Training Center, Colorado Springs. I was just doing that full time. And I feel like a little bit of a head start on a lot of people out there. So when I transitioned to start college after that, and I continued to train, I kind of knew myself, knew what kind of a learner am I. I didn't really like class, and so I kind of knew that already from judo. I was more of like a YouTube analyzed guy, and I kind of got to attack my classes with the same sort of strategy, in anything, man. And I think, like, firstly, it was that, just like how to solve problems and knowing yourself. Um, and then, as you're growing up, you have things, tough stuff you're going to have to deal with. And when you're, like 18, I was actually 17 when I moved to Colorado. And, like getting training full time, and, like I was doing dating, getting my heart broken out there. And, uh, even like when that happened, I remember I was dating this girl, and she broke up with me, and I was sad, and um, like that can be tough. And but I'd already sort of implemented this thing I was doing in judo, where if I had a bad practice, I would sort of look at it with like okay, I got some adversity ahead of me. I can either muscle through it, or even better, I can like use that and turn adversity into opportunity. And so turn those setbacks into like the best possible thing that could have happened, right? So uh, girl breaks up with me, I'm sad. I could kind of just get through it, or I could say, well, what's something I otherwise would not have done that I can now kind of adjust my path and buckle down and do something, work towards something that I wouldn't have done otherwise. So I remember that happened. And I started, in addition to like the practices and weightlifting, okay, no matter what, I'm going to look at all the guys in my division. I'm going to watch their matches, like just 15 minutes every day. And I continue to do that. And I had some tough matches with those guys in the future. And I don't know how they would have gone if I'd not done that. And like anything, I mean, you have, uh, it can happen, not like just girls, obviously, but with, I was having some car issues in Colorado, and my I just was out, didn't have a car. It was like a mile and a half to the Olympic Training Center that I would walk to practice, then walk back. And it was the winter. It was really cold. It was like snow everywhere. And I was like, okay, how can I can just get through this. I don't want to be watching TV in my warm apartment right now, but I use this to weaponize it, turn the adversity into opportunity. And so kind of started a practice where like the last half hour when a practice ended, I would just kind of go through the situation and almost like kind of like a little meditative approach, like replay the situations that I had trouble with or that I felt strong. And I had the practice, and now I'm going to have like a little mind practice for half hour every day afterwards. And that's something I've continued to do. Practice ends, if I'm driving home or whatever, I just don't turn off my phone, don't listen to music, just like kind of replay the situations. So, I mean, add that up over the years, it's like you get to practice another 2-3 years more than you otherwise would have. So I think just like all these little things that started off in the gym or in Randori, like you develop those habits. And then when I was in college, like I wanted to go to medical school, and I wanted to go to California, see what that was all about. And I really wanted to go to Stanford. And so I just like had to buckle down and was able to do what I needed to do to make that happen. Just like using all the things I used in martial arts. And I just think, man, honestly, if I didn't have that, I would just be kind of wandering, like, and I still do a lot of that. I'm not, I still have some things I want to figure out in life, right? But I feel more secure in my ability to kind of do what I need to do to figure it out than if I have martial arts. And so, and being lost, it doesn't feel good. It's kind of going back to mental health. It's anxiety provoking. But if you know that you can enter into these anxiety provoking situations with tools you feel confident in, then you can get it done, get after it.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So I want to touch on a few things that you said. So so you're a doctor, is basically what you're saying. You went to Stanford Medical School, and I feel like what you said is basically, if judo and the martial arts weren't a part of your life, that that probably would have never happened. So can we just like linger on that just a little longer? Can we talk about like what specifically about judo training or about the martial arts made you be able to succeed? Because like there's one thing, kind of there's obviously an element of willpower there. And I know that you touched on it a lot in what you were just talking about in terms of like, self-study being super important, kind of training yourself. But just can you walk us through a little bit more about like what was that like pushing through that grind? Because I know medical school is a grind. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about that? And like, how did your judo training apply? Like, were you still training when you were going through school? Like, did you have that time to keep going to the gym, or did you have to pause? your training.
Yeah, trying to, like, if you're in the gym and you're trying to throw somebody, submit them, whatever, I mean, they're not going to let you do that, right? Like, they're going to be doing everything they can to kind of take that away from you. And life's a lot like that. And if you're just if you don't have that everyday feedback of, is what I'm doing, is it working? Because let's say something bad happened and I didn't have martial arts. I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to study this way. I need to buckle down in this way. Well, like, the next opportunity that you have to really test that might be an exam. It might not go well, and then you're kind of out of luck. But having that, like, everyday feedback of, I'm in the gym, okay, this worked. This is how I learn. This is how I can tackle things. This is likely to be successful. After hundreds of failures, where I kind of got this out of my system. Like, I'm not somebody who can really, like, just kind of, like, buckle down for 2 hours in a class and learn like that. But I know that I can do it if I can be on my own and kind of just read about it and kind of use these little tricks that I think make it more interesting for me. And, like, when you're in the hospital with patients, or with like studying in medical school, I mean, these are sort of high pressure situations. I mean, if you're not performing well, I mean, that's somebody's life on the line, right? Like, you could misdiagnose, mistreat, and you need to be at your best. And I think you can't be at your best if you don't know yourself really, really well. And martial arts requires you to know yourself more so than, and it's the live rounds, right? Because that is the real, like I said, again, like, litmus test. Like, this is as accurate as accurate data as you can get. And it's also, like, you're invested in it, right? I mean, this is stuff that's, like, important to you, and it comes with setback, injuries, like, sacrifice. And that's really, I think, like, the most important part of medicine is, like, realizing what that is for somebody else. Somebody else might work hard, not do what they wanted to do in order to achieve their goals in health. And a lot of people in the hospital, and, like, a lot of physicians, they can't really understand that. I mean, I've had doctors before that I said, like, look, these are my goals in judo, and they're like, oh, you can't do that anymore because of your knee or whatever. And it's just, that's not helpful. And so you have to be able to sort of, like, know what's important to you, and then also step back and say, okay, well, what is likely important for them? And honestly, that's something I'm still learning, because for a long time I would try to just put myself in their shoes and try to look at the situation, but they're their own person in their shoes, right? That's not perfect. And so I get more into the coaching side of things now. I'm kind of developing and honing that craft a little bit, which is, like, no, they're not Austin in this situation. They're, so-and-so. So still reaping the rewards from martial arts.
That's awesome, man. I think it's like the attention to detail that is required
Absolutely.
to be successful as a martial artist. Sounds like something that is every day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I mean, and it's just hard. Like, it's more than anything you're gonna do. Going against some stud trying to take your head off, and you have to control him, implement your game plan under stress, right? Like, something happens in the hospital, some vitals are not looking how they should. They're not responding how I thought they would to a medication. You have that sort of like impetus in the moment to figure out something, like, what can I do right now? And then you can go back to the drawing board and think about it later. And having had that, like, in tournaments and practice, whatever, like, you're used to that. Like, you've seen this thousands of times before. And so I think in those high intensity situations, you're just so much better prepared to tackle it. Not tackling in judo, because that's illegal now, but
of course. But man, I think you're touching on something that we talked a lot about on this podcast before, which is just how jiu-jitsu and judo and the martial arts, it gives you a way to rep getting out of bad positions, and that trains your mindset.
Absolutely.
Because it's not just the getting out of bad positions, but also being able to turn that around to a counter, and being able to actually use it to your advantage. And that's kind of what you were talking about before. And man, I
Yes.
actually just had Braulio Estema back on the podcast. He came and talked about like the principles of the martial arts. And that was one thing he talked on, is that the whole action reaction element that you touched on before. He said that he thinks that that's like one of the fundamental principles of the martial arts, of like having that understanding is paramount above, above like the techniques, or just like, the specifics of the techniques. He was like, if you have that understanding, like that is so important. And that's really what you're talking about, is the action reaction of like, the push and pull of like, you do this and then this happens. So then you have to go in this direction and you have to do it all under pressure. That's sort of a mental thing. There's nowhere else where you can get reps in, like to get reps in under pressure in a real life situation. Obviously you would never do that because someone's life is on the line. Like you were saying, like you can never get that same sort of repetition under pressure because someone's life would be in danger. So instead you have to have a place like the judo mats where you can rep putting yourself in a terrible position and then quickly getting out and reversing it and getting on top, and doing that multiple times within a 5-minute round, or a 10-minute round or whatever. And I think it trains the brain in a certain way.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Powerful. It's powerful.
And like, again, back to like adversity is opportunity. If something were to happen in a match, like how can I use my advantage? Like this guy is always going for this attack that's giving me trouble. Well, this might be open. Or like, again, going back to like medicine, this treatment didn't work in the way I expected. So you can either get frustrated and just try something else, or you can look at that as, well, that's interesting. I didn't expect that this would happen. Like, what does that tell us about the situation that we otherwise didn't know? And so just being like having that fluidity to just, like you said, action and reaction, not just necessarily muscling through something, but like taking all that data in and always looking to sort of like weaponize any opportunity, or and that can be the same thing, like weaponizing knowledge against a disease, right? It's all just, life's a fight.
Yeah. And I think you're hitting on some really fundamental truths here, man. And I really appreciate you sharing all this. What kind of doctor are you? I forgot to ask earlier. Like, what's your
General practitioner? Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So can we get into talking a little bit about mental health? Like, can we compare, like, what was your mental health like before you started training in judo versus who are you today? Can you talk about that transformation?
Yeah, I mean so many obstacles people encounter in mental health, I think come from just, like self-worth, feeling lost in a situation, and like a lot of confidence. I mean, setback, getting stuck in setback and not being able to get out, right? And I mean, I think that certain setbacks bad, in life, I may not have been able to have the resilience, or not just resilience, but mindset to be able to find opportunity in them that I otherwise would. And just, I mean, you on the mat with people doing the same thing as you, and you're gonna get like, these become like your friends and like family, and you're in this journey together, right? And so, and you're I don't think anybody gets good without sort of like being a good training partner, and I want to work with you, right? If you're that kind of guy at the gym that's hurting people, not helping people, and so you kind of you just kind of have to be a good person, if even selfishly, if you want to get better. And then going in, like treating mental health, and you've heard a lot of these stories before. I mean, it's the same. You kind of have this window into somebody's life through this like shared important experience through martial arts, right? I got injured and then I have to make money, and like chances are you've had one of your boys or whatever that's had that same experience happen, and you can, like, you've been there before. It's just life. It's, I mean, and martial arts is like, you kind of share this with somebody and like all the people at your gym, and so you have these windows into their lives, and so you're just better equipped to deal with them in sort of like a medical capacity.
Yeah, it's like a international fraternity. All of us
Yeah.
grapplers, all of us people who do wrestling or judo or jujitsu or MMA or
Yeah.
any of it. Like if you see someone with cauliflower ears walking around,
Oh
you're like, oh
man.
hey, look
Yes.
at you, bro. They're like, what
Every
up?
time, and like I've never had it happen where like someone, every time my wife's, I was like, oh man, like Austin, like a guy's in line, I see his cauliflower, I'm like, oh, what's up, bro? Like, how'd you get those? And I've never had like a bad, like our awkward encounter after that's always like, oh, what's up, man? Like, where are you training at?
Yeah, right.
Um,
They're never
it's a
like,
sort of
hey,
like,
screw you, bro. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like none of your business. Yeah. No,
don't
it's
you look at my ears, bro. That's
yeah,
none of your business.
exactly. I know. It's exactly like, and like same thing, like go travel somewhere. Like I know that like I can hit up people and they'll just open their doors, and like same thing, like this guy Jason Morris, big judo guy, was here, North Carolina, and I hadn't talked to him in like years since I was competing, but I knew he was coming, and so I was like, oh Jason, like here, stay at my house, and they did the same to me when I was training in New
That's
York.
awesome.
And it was it's just, it's the best. You have like a family, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I've had so many great experiences just over the years that I've been training, met so many friends. Just about all of my friends, honestly, at this point.
Yeah. Yeah,
Jiu-jitsu
same, man.
in some one capacity or another. I love it, man. And I meet new people like
Yeah,
you all the time that I'm like, oh man, like
likewise,
we would
likewise.
totally chill. We would obviously
Yeah.
be having a good time hanging out. You probably would throw me. I would try to counter and we would see where that
No,
would
yeah,
we would see
yeah,
where that
for
would go.
sure. I'm just a blue belt though, so go easy on me.
Oh yeah, I would of course have to take it easy on you. Of course, bro. But dude, I really appreciate this conversation. And I just want to talk about one other thing. I know you're as a doctor, you obviously have a practice, you work with a lot of people. Can we just talk more broadly about like the importance of physical activity and mental health? Like what do you see in your practice, like the difference between people who come in and they don't take care of themselves versus the people who do? Can you talk about like their mental state
Yeah, I
specifically?
mean, it's night and day. I mean, just immediately you're going to live longer, you're going to have a longer life, and a longer just health span, being more mobile than you otherwise would be. All the sort of markers associated with disease, like blood sugar, blood pressure, mood, everything is just, all the data supports is just a no-brainer that activity is exactly what you need. And if you can couple that with this sort of like flow state, like meditative mindset that you are required to sort of implement when you're doing jujitsu, um, it's not only exercise and health, but it's sort of forced meditation in like a fun way. Because I've tried to meditate before and I have a hard time with it, but I can do it all the time on the mat. And I mean, how many times you've looked at the clock and been like, whoa, it's already been 2 hours? Like, that's crazy. Um, it's just, it's night and day. And man, as I've been doing more jujitsu, and I think jujitsu is more like that than judo, because I mean, it's just so much safer in terms of like the impact, and there's just so much more you can do. Like, I'm still amazed at things in jujitsu that are just these like unexplored kind of uh, you know landscapes, and it's mentally stimulating, physically. It's just, I think people just live. I think anybody would live a better life if they're involved.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I got one last question for you, man, and then we got to wrap this up. But you kind of touched on it just there. I wanted to dive into this a little bit more, but this is a little break from like the health aspect, but just kind of getting into the training a little. People ask me all the time because I've got a judo brown belt. They ask me all the time about like what was judo like compared to jujitsu practice, because there's no judo places really around like where I live in middle of nowhere,
It's
Missouri. But
common, yeah.
we have jujitsu, but I get asked a lot, like, what is the big difference between judo and jiu-jitsu? Because to an outsider, they seem so similar, and they are. Like, obviously, they're really similar. But I just love to get your take on this. Like, could you kind of do like maybe a little comparison between your experience training judo versus your experience training jiu-jitsu? Because you've obviously had a lot of both. Like what are kind of the pros and cons of each?
So judo kind of reminds me of like blitz jiu-jitsu, where you can, the groundwork you have, it's short time, so you have to make something happen. It's a little cruder, but sometimes that's okay, and sometimes that gets the job done. um it's, the matches are shorter. I mean, like 4 minutes. you can lose so much more quickly if you make one error, get thrown in your back. It's fast, fast, fast. And I think like reaction time, like explosiveness is more important in judo. I mean, you're kind of just like, you have these handles on somebody and they have the handles on you, and somebody's going to go, which I like. And I like, and jiu-jitsu is like that in some capacity as well, but it's more, I think it's more like thoughtful, formulaic, and you have a little bit more time to kind of think. And that was something I struggled with when I first came into jiu-jitsu. I didn't realize that like it wasn't just like boom, 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 and like I would just exhaust myself. It's these like more complex puzzles that I think it's a little bit more intellectual too than judo. I mean, I love judo, but it's just, I think I think judo is like athleticism, explosiveness, reaction time. Like it's just going to be really hard to get good if you don't have those. And what is so cool about jiu-jitsu is it's just designed in a way that that's not what's most important. It's this just like understanding of techniques and setups, so you can take time. It's more like chess, and judo's like checkers.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I liked what you said about it being like blitz jujitsu. I thought
Yeah,
I'd never heard that before, but I think that's a great way to think about it. It's like judo on jujitsu on hyper speed. It's like we're
yeah,
gonna condense it.
or like chess for speed chess.
Yes, chess versus speed chess. That's a good way to think about it. And that's what I've noticed with a lot of judo guys. And this is actually something I've been trying to implement more in my jiu-jitsu game. Like I've been trying to go back almost to judo because I did judo in college. I haven't actually trained judo in like 10 years, but I've implemented the judo style to my jiu-jitsu game. And now but I think it's super important, and it gets lost a lot in jiu-jitsu. I've just been trying to like get really good at going for the finish quickly. Like I think sometimes in jiu-jitsu they take forever when they could just, there's opportunity to go in and go for the kill a lot easier or a lot faster.
Yeah.
And I think judo trains you to do that a lot better, which is great too in more of like a martial setting or like a street fight scenario where you don't have half an hour to set up your perfect half guard sweep sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's like I think judo is a lot more like straight to the point, like we're gonna throw you and choke you out in under as fast as humanly possible sort of thing. And jiu-jitsu is more like, oh, we've got this elaborate game plan. And and jiu-jitsu obviously does have the self-defense component, but a lot of schools neglect that these days. And and even the ones that train it, they still teach the sports stuff too, whereas judo schools are more like judo just as a style is more direct, if that makes sense.
And it's also more of a young man's game.
Yeah, definitely,
because risk of injury goes up, you get a little slower, and in jiu-jitsu, I mean, you can just, that window is just so much longer. And I mean, you can.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, man. We see jiu-jitsu guys go until like Wagner Roca, and granted he does confess to being on TRT, but he says he uses just the prescribed amount, but he's still competing in the world championships at 41.
That's insane. That's so cool
for the world title.
And like selfishly I love that, because then I get to now like oh man, my window, like I'm 31, and so wow, like hearing that, like wow, I got another 10 years, that's awesome, where that could never happen in judo.
Yeah, in judo you'd be insane. You'd be insane.
Yeah, exactly. And just broken.
Yeah, and on hella steroids, I guarantee.
Yeah.
But
if that pesky USADA would just leave us alone.
Yeah, of course. Dude, Austin, this has been a lot of fun, man. Hey, we got to wrap this up. Zoom's gonna kick us off, but could you just tell us a little bit about like where people can find you? And if someone's listening to this and they're like, man, Austin sounds like the greatest doctor I could ever have, like where can people come if they want to become a patient?
Oh yeah, just I mean, so my Instagram, just Bad Boy Medicine, stupid name, but meant to be, like you got to have a sense of humor with a lot of this stuff, so
I think it's a great name.
Yeah. Thanks. It's kind of doubles as a sort of, I guess, resource for people who like me when I was young, like want to have those sort of videos where they can like, learn. I've been trying to like put breakdowns and stuff on there, how to like use judo and a jiu-jitsu situation. And then, yeah, just hit me up at my Instagram. That's the best way.
Thank you, man, for coming on the show. And I really love your Instagram page, man. Like, it's one of my favorites. I think I commented this on your page, but I've actually hit a lot of the stuff that you show.
Hell yeah.
So like,
yeah, dude, I love that. That seriously makes my day. Whenever I see people say that, that just like, that's the best. Cause like, I'm still learning that like video editing game, and so whenever it takes me a lot of time to make them. And so whenever I know that like people are finding them helpful, it just motivates me to keep making them. So I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, keep it up. And yeah, if you train with me at TR Fitness, which hoodie I'm conveniently rocking, by the way. Shout out Glory at TR Fitness. But if you train with me there and you're getting thrown by Ogoshi, you have Austin to blame. So getting hit by me these days. Play Boston.
No, that's a good one. I love that. That's a good one. You're picking the right ones.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And hey, if you want to check out Austin, and if you want to also learn some cool judo throws that can apply to jiu-jitsu, go check out his Instagram. I'll put the links down below. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Austin, for coming back on the show. Even though we had
my pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude.